said this to you because you did this. You get it, right? You get it. Like, it's always a reason why I said it or why I did something. Hey everybody, welcome back. It's your girl Colleena Carlisle, and today we're going to be talking about the shame and guilt that can come from narcissistic abuse, being in a relationship with a narcissist, or anyone that can be verbally, emotionally, and physically abusive. Okay, so we're going to be talking about a couple ways that you or someone you may know can end up having a lot of shame and guilt, and why survivors of abuse, narcissistic abuse, verbal, emotional, mental, physical abuse, why they walk away with so much shame and guilt. Okay. So the first reason is going to be they're in a relationship with a narcissist. And narcissists, they love to blame. They love to shift blame consistently on the victim. It is always the victim's fault for their actions, for why they behave the way that they behave, why they make decisions, the reason they make decisions, the reason why they treat the victim evil or mean. It's always the victim's fault, right? I hit you because you looked left, right? I hit you because you said hi to that person walking, right? Or I cheated on you because you didn't jump up and down when I came into the house. I cheated on you because you upset me. I didn't come home last night because you did this. I said this to you because you did this. You get it, right? You get it. Like, it's always a reason why I said it or why I did something, right? For someone who's a narcissist or someone who's abusive, they're always going to blame the victim. And eventually, over time, especially depending on the length of time that the victim stays in a relationship, that is how much more powerful that tactic is going to be in that person's life. Okay. So if a person stays in a relationship with someone who is always blaming them, always saying it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault, it's eventually going to take a toll and cause the victim to believe that it is their fault, that it is them, that they're the reason they hit them, that they're the reason they cheated, and that it is their problem, that it is their fault. Okay. And because of that, the victim might develop this shame and this guilt from not ever being able to meet the needs of the narcissist, or feeling guilty and shame because they've somehow contributed to their abuse, that it's their fault. They're the reason why they got the abuse in the first place. It's because of them I was punched and beaten. It was because of me that I was cheated on and lied to consistently. It was because of me that I was verbally abused and emotionally abused, right? They're going to internalize it. And there's a lot of people out there, especially people who aren't trained to deal with trauma, people who aren't trained to deal with situations of abuse. They're not going to understand fully, or if they haven't experienced abuse or experienced trauma, they're not going to fully understand or grasp what happens. Yes, in a normal world, everybody say there's reasons behind, right? Like, there's a reason X happened, right? There's a reason A caused B or B caused A, right? Typically, most people who find themselves in a relationship with a narcissist, if we want to put responsibility on them, or even myself who's been in one before, is the reason is low self-worth, low self-esteem, right? A lack of love for self, a lack of identity, right? An attraction or normalization of abuse, right? Because maybe they experienced it growing up, or they seen it growing up, so it was normalized to them, right? Or it could be a default of loving too much, loving too hard at the expense of self, loving people more than you love yourself, right? Okay. And that can keep you in these types of relationships, or always seeing the good in people, despite the evil they continue to show you on a day-to-day basis, right? So if we want to point fingers, yes, we can say there are reasons why. But when it comes to dealing with people of trauma, people of abuse, it's important to understand that you cannot point fingers at them, because they're already pointing the fingers at them, and the abuser is always already doing it as well. The abuser is already telling them that it's their fault, that they're the reason. And so imagine an abuser and the victim going to therapy or counseling and trying to work it out. Guess what? If that counselor isn't trained in narcissistic abuse or trained in trauma therapy the right way, right? Or even experienced it themselves, they're not going to see it. Because guess what? That abuser is going to show up and be like, oh, it's because of this and X, Y, and Z. They're going to show up as their best self. They're going to have that mask on. It's going to be boiled down to, oh, it's just communication issues. Or maybe you aren't meeting his emotional needs or her emotional needs. Maybe you could show up more and it, he wouldn't cheat or she wouldn't cheat. Maybe you're looking like, okay, you walked away and said, and it's reiterated to you from your counselor, from your therapist now, that you're the reason he cheated, or she's the reason they cheated. It's your fault again, right? It's you. You're the problem. And that's why it's important, right? It's going to be very important to find therapists, find counselors or coaches who understand trauma, who understand narcissistic abuse, who understands that silent abuse, the abuse that is not often seen because there's a bruise on their mouth or there's a blackened eye, but the abuse that comes from the form of mental, emotional damage, abuse that is often not seen, but it's even more powerful. I've worked with a lot of abuse victims, and they will say, I would rather him hit me or her hit me instead of the damage she done to me verbally and emotionally. Okay. And so another thing is, it could be family members and friends, right? Who don't know how to handle abuse, who don't know what trauma looks like. Maybe like, well, maybe if you do this and maybe if you do that, then maybe it will be this way. Maybe it will fix. Again, putting blame and responsibility back on the victim, right? And so the victim will internalize that it is because of them, that it is their fault. Because society always has a reason why a person cheats, why a person does things. It's because of X, Y, and Z in a relationship. It's because the wife didn't dress right, the wife didn't look right, the wife didn't say hi, the husband didn't show attention, the husband didn't do this. It's a reason, right? Because of that one. No, I've been in my relationship. I've been married. I know what it's like to be in relationships with people, friendship, romantic. And just because of what some person does, or because someone didn't say hi or someone didn't show up, never gave me the right to say, I'm going to go and cheat on them. I'm going to go and do something harmful to them. No. If you're going to cheat, if you're going to hurt someone, you're just going to do it because that's who you are. You're that person, right? And that is going to be very important for you if you are someone who's codependent. You carry a lot of shame. You carry a lot of guilt. There is nothing you could have done that would have stopped that person from hitting you, cheating on you, abusing you, verbally, mentally, emotionally. It is not your fault that that person chose to destroy you, that that person chose to harm you, that that person chose to use you as collateral damage in their own trauma and their own pain, and didn't seek the necessary help that they needed for themselves, and instead blamed you for their actions. And I'm sorry, right? Because I know that pain, and I know that shame and that guilt that comes from it. That shame and guilt that you deserved it. You deserve that treatment. You deserve that abuse. You deserve that pain. And that is not true, because no one deserves it. Even the person who did it, right? Even the abuser doesn't deserve it, right? No one deserves to be treated like this, treated harmful, treated in a way that's abusive. No one, right? No one. Okay? God said there is forgiveness for everyone. That he created all of us, right? That we're all worthy of his love. We're all worthy of his forgiveness, right? Okay. Another reason why shame and guilt may happen with a person is causing a person to doubt who they are, doubt their reality, doubt their truth, doubt their own beauty, doubt their own uniqueness, right? They'll use manipulation to tear down the victim, tear down their strength, tear down their light, take away their light, take away their beauty that God instilled in them, take away their joy. And he'll do this all in the hopes of destroying the person, right? Because they want people to feel just as empty, just as dark as they do, right? And some intentionally and unintentionally are doing it, right? A lot of times they know, right? A lot of the times they know. The next is the loss of trust or the loss of relationships that can happen in your life. And this is because with narcissistic relationships, they'll often put you in a place of isolation and alienation. They will keep you from family members. They'll keep you from friends. They'll keep you from having relationships with other people, or they'll talk bad about other people in your life or other situations, or they'll try to keep you from a job or keep you from an opportunity, because they want to maintain control, maintain power over you. And this on the outside, to people in your life, people you love, people you start to alienate and isolate yourself from, they may notice the shift. They're going to notice you're not calling. They're noticing you're not picking up. They're noticing you're not involved in their lives anymore. And they may become angry with you, but they don't know, because a lot of the times in these relationships, the victim will protect the abuser. The victim is always known for protecting the abuser, protecting the narcissist, right? I have worked with many people, and even myself. I don't know why it happens, but it happens. They protect the abuser, right? Protect him, speak positive about him or her, right? Like, oh no, they're so great. They're just so wonderful. Like they do nothing wrong. They're such a great father. They're such a great mother. They're such a great this person, or they got me this today, right? Their little love bombing stage. They gave you something and love bombed you, so you feel amazing. You want to share with the world, but you won't tell everybody. Well, yeah, last night he punched me. Last night he did this to me. Last night he cussed me out and, punched a wall, or he did X, Y, and Z, right? We're not going to say that part, right? And typically, the reason why, which I've discovered, is one, it's embarrassing, right? It's embarrassing because if you care about the approval of people, if you care about what people perceive and see, sometimes your choice of partner is a reflection of you. And so if you chose a partner who's not good, who's abusive, who's a terrible person, right? It's going to look like you're a terrible person, or you're going to feel that way, or you're going to think that people are going to perceive you that way, right? And so your reputation of who you are is going to be impacted. And then another reason is just because you love them, right? You care about them, right? You don't want people to see them in a bad light. You genuinely care. You genuinely love them. And they will use that love to their advantage. They will treat you badly behind closed doors. They will treat you wrong because they know that you love them too much, or your self-worth and self-esteem is so messed up that you're not going to tell the truth. You're not going to expose who they really are. And this is how oftentimes they get away with things, right? Because they find people who are goodwill, people who are loving, who are caring, who aren't going to just outright expose them for who they are, right? And they've built up such a reputation. It's so funny because abusers are always the person that everybody likes. The social butterfly, the just like person with charisma, like the person with like well dressed, this and that. Like it's the person that people least expect half the time, right? And you fell in love with that same person, right? When you first met them, they came as this representative. They came with this face that they were just amazing and like they weren't bad, they weren't abusive, and they were just so loving and they just could give you the world. And they were like, right? Like, oh my God, this is too good to be true, right? And then it was like 360. What happened? Right? Like he flipped or she flipped, right? After they already got the hooks in you and you love them and you care about them, there's a shift. And now you start to slowly see this person, this broken person, this abusive, this true person, right? And even then, I can go a little deeper in that. Like, that's not even the true person. That's just another protective part, right? Narcissistic, the personality, it's a protective personality that they've developed. And it's a lot harder for them to attack it and change it, like codependence or other types of personality disorders, because narcissists don't see that it's their fault. They're unable to be self-aware, right? It takes a lot of extensive therapy, a lot of help to actually know that there is something wrong and for them actually follow through with getting the help. And that's why it's such a low chance of them ever truly changing or getting help, right? We hear about the few on here, like the Lee Hammonds and all of those people who have learned about their narcissism. They know that they're narcissistic, right? But that is so rare. So rare. A lot of them don't know because they're not willing to do the deep work on self, to reflect, to face the person in the mirror, to truly face the person in the mirror and get the help that is needed, right? So with narcissistic abuse, they do a lot of manipulation as well and gaslighting, right? So denying reality, telling the person what is false is what actually happened, denying their truth. You hit me. I didn't hit you. What? I saw you talking to that girl. What? I didn't talk to that girl. I saw you next to that guy walking with him. What? Couldn't have been me. Like, you literally probably have to have physical evidence for them to realize that that is something that actually happened. And sometimes you can have physical evidence and they'll deny to the end of the world, right? But that type of mind game, right? That manipulation, that gaslighting can cause a person to have a lot of guilt that they didn't recognize it for what it was, that they didn't recognize that they were being manipulated, that they were being played, that they were being abused and taken advantage of, right? And that causes a lot of shame and a lot of guilt in themselves. And lastly, a lot of shame and guilt can just simply come from the fact that maybe this person before that relationship was a strong person, was someone that people looked up to, that young men looked up to, young women looked up to, or someone that had high regards or high self-esteem, was successful, was happy, was joyful, like just amazing person, right? Before this person came into their life. And once they got in a relationship, and as the years or the months went by, those things were stripped. The energy gone. The high self-esteem gone. The success gone. They're no longer interested in their goals, their businesses. They're no longer interested in their hobbies. They're no longer showing up in the way that they used to show up. And because of that, they have a lot of guilt. They have a lot of shame. Like, how could I allow someone take all that I was, everything from me? And how can I now be this person that I don't even recognize? Because abuse can cause a person to develop so many different types of personality, mental health issues, addictions. Maybe that person before that relationship, they were just like, again, this person who didn't have a substance abuse, didn't have an addiction abuse, or not abuse, addiction, or didn't have like low self-worth, low self-esteem, right? Or it wasn't, if they did, it wasn't as prevalent as it was now. Maybe they didn't battle anxiety and all these different things, but now because they've been in this abusive relationship, now they have anxiety, they have depression, they have a drinking problem, they have a smoking problem, they have a drug problem, they hate themselves. Once upon a time, they thought they were beautiful, and now they're trying to figure out how to make themselves beautiful on surgery because the person destroyed their self-esteem, or now they're thinking and considering to alter their body. Men, steroids. I guess girls can do steroids too, but I ain't about to do no steroids. I'm trying to have no hair. But you know what I mean. Or girls get under a knife, BBL, whatever. In this world, everybody, it's another story, right? You're going to do something, right? To alter your body, right? Or to make yourself appealing, to maybe look like the person they cheated on you with, or look like the person that they talked about and said that they wanted more of you to look like. Maybe you get bigger boobs because they want bigger boobs. Maybe you get less boobs because they want less boobs. Whatever the situation may be, right? You're doing stuff to appease them. And so at the end of that relationship, you no longer recognize yourself. You don't recognize who you are. You're not that happy person anymore. You're not that loving person. You've lost your friends. You've lost your close people, your family. You protected this person to the community and to your friends and their friends. And so now you look like the crazy one because now you're the one with the addiction. Now you're the one with the anger issues. Now you're the one with the depression. Now you're the one with the reactive abuse. Now you're the one like, right? Because you've been abused. And that can create a whole lot of shame, a whole lot of guilt, where you just feel like everything was your fault and you deserve it. And that you have to be the most craziest, most gullible, and insane person in the world to not recognize the red flags, to not recognize the abuse when it happened or when it was happening, right? And sometimes you do see the red flags. Sometimes you do notice the abuse. Sometimes it becomes too late because you love the person. And once there's a trauma bond there, once there's chemical attraction there, maybe marriage bond, whatever, it's harder to break those things. It's harder to break relationships than what a lot of people think. We all have been raised differently. We all have different attachment styles. And we'll talk about different attachment styles later on. But we all have different ways of relating to other people, relating to the world. And so it's really important on your journey as you heal to not listen to the wrong advice, to not listen to the wrong people. Yes, there are going to be times that you're going to have to take a lot of responsibility, right? I have to take responsibility of myself, responsibility of building up my self-esteem, my self-worth, my relationship with God, changed the way I thought about things and how I saw things. Like, there was a lot of responsibility I had to take on and do. I had to, whatever bad behaviors or habits, I had to take responsibility for those things, the things that I could change and let them go, right? But at the same time, you were a victim. And you are not responsible for the abuse that someone gave to you or did to you. You're not responsible for someone hitting you and harming you. And so it's important that you find people who understand trauma, who understand abuse, the right therapists, the right coaches who understand it, because they're going to be able to help you, or the right support groups, or the right people who know what that abuse is like, what that does to a person. Because a lot of people who've never experienced it are never going to understand it. And to be honest, I would never want them to understand it. If you've been in narcissistic, abusive relationships, you don't want anyone to experience it. Trust me, not even your worst enemy. Especially depending on the type of narcissist you had, right? There's levels to narcissism. There's levels. Some of them is not just about look at me, right? It's levels to the abuse that a narcissist can put on a person. And so, I encourage you, if you are living in a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, start to work on letting that go. There is nothing you could have done differently. And it is not just your burden to carry alone. It is not just your fault. Maybe, yes, you've contributed and did things and had reactive abuse, but it is not entirely your fault. It will never be entirely your fault. You just were manipulated. You were forced to believe by someone who refuses to get help, refuses to change, refuses to see their own contributions. You're just a victim of that type of person. You're a victim of someone who basically used you as collateral damage for their own pain and their own hurt and their own emptiness. And you did not deserve that. And it's important that you take the time, if you are in that relationship, to start to work on you, to start to get healthy, to start to love yourself, to start to separate what is the games, what is the manipulating, what's the gaslighting, and get clear. And if you are out of it, it's important to stay out of it. Stay out of that relationship and those types of relationships until you fully heal. Okay? So if you're battling a lot of shame and guilt, you don't know or have anybody to talk to, you can definitely talk to me. I am a life coach. I am a health and wellness coach. And so you can reach out to me. You can reach out to me in the email that's in my description below. You can also check out my website and also join me in that way. You can also check out some of the programs and different things that I offer on my website. If you're someone who is battling with codependency, I do have my codependency workbook, which goes tail and tail with my codependency course online, but that is available. The workbook is available on Amazon, and that is in the description below. If you thought this was helpful, please like it. Please share, please follow, subscribe, join me as we continue to heal and go on this healing journey. Remember to say, I am healing. I am becoming healed. I am enough. I am lovable. I am worthy. Okay? All because God says so, right? Stop believing the lies and believe the truth. Believe what God says about you. So remember, I love you. God loves you. Take care. Bye.